Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you're having a great Wednesday so far. I really enjoyed our class Zoom yesterday at 5:30. We will have another one tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So just going to go ahead and jump right in. Today's video is covering packet number 4, day 8. So remember, at the end of this week, please send in 2 pieces of work from each subject. That's 2 from reading, writing, math, and content. With a total of 8, and then we'll be able to put your names in a drawing that will be done to win a KFC meal. So for every piece of work you submit, that's how many times your name goes in the drawing, with a maximum of 8, because that's the maximum number of assignments you should be submitting. So just kind of an exciting thing that you can do and possibly win while also getting your work done. So if we're looking at day 8 in packet number 4, the first thing that we have to do is phonics. So it says, go on a word hunt in the book, Fran Goes to Prom, and find 6 words that include an R blend. So before we even start, I'm going to let you know, while you are reading Fran Goes to Prom, you can feel free to have the blend card in front of you so you can spot those R blends. So right here, you have some examples of R blend words. So this is what you're focusing on today. We're going to read that book, and you need to find 6 words with R blends at the beginning and write those down. So I'm going to read the story to you. But then remember, you need to read it on your own to your favorite stuffed animal or a family member. So it's called Fran Goes to Prom. Okay, right here. Fran goes to prom. Fran must go to the frog prom, but Fran does not have a dress with frills. Her dress is drab. Fran's stepmom will not let her go to the prom. She has jobs for her to do. Fran has to dust the steps. Fran has to make grits and grill crab. Fran's stepmom does not want Fran to go to the prom. You cannot go to the prom unless you do your jobs, she snapped. Fran was sad. Just then Fran saw a slim, trim magic man. I am Brad, the magic man, he said with a grin. I will get you to the frog prom. With a slip and a slap, Brad did the jobs. He dusted the steps, he made the grits and grilled crab. But I do not have a prom dress, sniffed Fran. With a spin and a spell, Brad made the best dress with frills. But my slippers are too drab. They are a drag, said Fran. Brad grabbed the slippers. With a spit and a spin, he made new red slippers. I love the dress, grinned Fran, but how will I get to the prom? Brad got a grip on a drill. With a snip and a snap, he made a box into a sled. Brad grabbed the cat. With a slip and a slap, Brad made the cat into a horse. The horse trotted up to the sled. You will take a trip to the prom on this sled, Brad said. Have a fun trip. You must be home at 10 past 10, Brad said. If you are not, the sled will be a box. The horse will be a cat. Your dress will be a rag. Fran was off on a trip to the frog prom. It was not a drag. It was the best frog prom ever. So I just read that to you. Your job now will be to reread it to yourself, to a stuffed animal, or to someone at home, and you need to write down 6 R blend words that you found in that story. I want them to be 6 different words. We're not going to write Fran, 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 Fran. We need to write 6 different R blend words. There were lots in that story, so we should be able to find them. And like I said, if you need to have your blend chart out, you can feel free to do that. Next thing that we are doing, it says phonological awareness. Practice manipulating sounds in one-syllable words. So the first thing you're going to do is your parent will say a word. You will say it back and tell them how many sounds are in that word. And then they're going to ask you to change one of the sounds. So this is kind of a two-part thing. A practice word that we have in the packet is fine. So the adult will say the word fine. Ask the student to repeat the word and say the number of sounds in the word. So then the student would say fine, fine, 3 sounds. Then say the word again and change one sound and say the new word. So the adult would say fine. Now say fine, but change the f to m. And you would say mine. So after you've told your parent how many sounds are in the word, then they're going to ask you to change one of the sounds in the word and see if you can do that. The words there for you to do this with are shine, broke, flame, glare, and spend. So first thing you're going to do is repeat the word and say how many sounds are in that word all together. Then you're going to repeat the word again, and your parent or adult is going to ask you to change one of the sounds in the word. And you'll do that to create a new word. You'll do that for each of the words there. There are 5 words there, so you'll do this 5 different times. After you've done that, and that's all out loud. The phonological awareness stuff is all orally. So you're doing that out loud. You're not writing this down. And I like some of you who have chosen to have the phonological awareness as an assignment that you turn in, you have sent videos of the student participating and saying it. That's fine. That's perfect because it shouldn't be written down, the phonological awareness things. So that's great. For the reading section for today, it says, reread Fran Goes to the Prom to your favorite stuffed animal or a family member. So we already read it once to find our blend words. Now you're going to reread it again to your favorite stuffed animal or a family member. So this time you're just reading it for fun. You're not searching for our blends because you did that before. That was our first thing that we did for today. So for reading, reread Fran Goes to the Prom to your favorite stuffed animal or a family member. Next section we have is writing. It says, in the book Fran Goes to Prom, Brad performs music to help Fran. If Brad came to your house and offered to help you, what would you ask him to do? So you are going to write your answer. And it says, remember to use capital letters at the beginning of sentences and punctuation marks at the end of sentences. So you need to think about the story, think about Fran Goes to Prom, and Brad, the magic man, every time he helped Fran get ready for the prom or change something to be ready for prom, he used magic to help her. So if he came to your house and offered to help you, what would you ask him to do? What would you ask Brad to help you do with magic if he came to your house? And so you need to write your answer. And it shouldn't just be clean my room. No, it should be a full and complete sentence. Like it says, remember to use capital letters at the beginning of sentences and punctuation marks at the end of sentences. This should be a full thought. It should be more than one sentence. We're giving details. And make sure that you reread what you write to make sure that it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, you need to change some things so that the person that does read it, it makes sense to them. Then it says at the bottom, optional. Watch the WHRO Learn to Grow segment from 1:15 to 1:30 and then practice what was talked about in today's segment. So that'll be an option every day. I will continue to read it, but every day you have the option to watch the WHRO Learn to Grow segment, and that's from 1:15 to 1:30, and then practice whatever they do in the segment for that day. In math today, you have a word problem to solve. We are going to do a practice problem together that's very similar first. So I'm going to say, for our practice problem, Okay. So our practice problem is this. You have 10 friends and 8 lollipops. Do you have enough lollipops for each friend? How many more do you need, or how many extras do you have? And we need to solve it with pictures, numbers, and words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw pictures first to help me solve this. So I have 10 friends. Okay, so this is our 10 friends. And then it says we have 8 lollipops. Six, 7, 8. Do you have enough lollipops for each friend? No, I'm missing some. These 2 friends don't get a lollipop. How many more do you need, or how many extras do you have? So, how many more lollipops do I need for every friend to get a lollipop? I need 1, 2. 2 more lollipops so that everyone gets one. So I could write this math problem in a couple of different ways. The way that I'm going to do it is when I have 8 lollipops plus the 2 more that I need, that gives me the total of 10 friends all getting a lollipop. So when it says, do you have enough lollipops for each friend? I'm running out of space, but I'm going to try. No. I need 2 more lollipops. So it asks, how many more do you need, or how many extras do you have? Did I have any extra lollipops? I only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there weren't any extras. I was actually short a couple. Or it says, how many more do you need? So we figured out we needed 2 more so that everyone got a lollipop. So our math problem, our numbers that we did was 8 plus 2 gives us that total of 10. And to answer all the questions, do you have enough lollipops for each friend? No, we didn't. How many more do you need? I need 2 more lollipops. So we used pictures, numbers, and words to solve that problem. Now, the difference is for the problem in your packet, you're going to solve it very similarly. It's very close to the one that we just solved together. The only thing that will be different is you have 12 friends and 7 lollipops. Do you have enough for each friend? How many more do you need, or how many extras do you have? Show with pictures, numbers, and words. So you're going to solve it the same way that we just solved the practice problem. Think about these numbers. These are the information that you have. I'll read it one more time. You have 12 friends and 7 lollipops. Do you have enough lollipops for each friend? How many more do you need, or how many extras do you have? And just like all of our problems, you need to use pictures, numbers, and words to show your thinking. So that's our math problem for today. We did our practice one, and this is the one that you need to do on your own. Now we are going to content. This is our new information. We've been talking about Jamestown and the Declaration of Independence yesterday. So let's see what we are learning today. So today's heading is George Washington. On the KLEW chart, write down anything that you know about George Washington or what you are wondering about him. So on the KLEW chart, and I'll pull that up now. What I want you to do before we learn about George Washington, write in the K section what you think you know about him before we talk about him. And then write something that you are, any questions that you have. So write that in your KLEW chart before we get started. And then it says, so on the KLEW chart, write down anything that you know about George Washington or what you are wondering about him. Read pages 60 and 61, then talk about what you learned. Choose 2 questions below to answer. So pages 60 and 61 is where we're going to go now. A war to be free. The American Revolution was a war fought between America and Great Britain. The war lasted for many years. Many brave soldiers, including Indians, fought and died. So one of the words to know, revolution, is a fight by many people to change the government. And the caption for this picture says, American soldiers often wore coats of blue, but many had no uniforms at all. The British soldiers wore coats of bright red, so the Americans called them redcoats. So after the Declaration of Independence was written and sent over to Great Britain, where the King of England was, he did not like it. So this started a war, the American Revolution, where the Americans were fighting for their freedom from Great Britain, and the soldiers from Great Britain were fighting so that the Americans would have to stay under British rule. Freedom. George Washington was picked to lead the American soldiers into war. Fighting started in the north, but the final battle of the war took place in Yorktown, Virginia. Washington helped America win. The United States became a new country. So George Washington was from Virginia. He was a brave soldier and a great leader. The Battle of Yorktown in Virginia was the last battle of the American Revolution. What is happening in this picture? So look at this picture and see what you think is happening. So Yorktown, Virginia is right close to where we are. So that's a pretty cool thing. If you go to Yorktown, there's a lot of very cool historical things that you can look at to learn more. So George Washington was the leader of the American soldiers, and they ended up winning. So the United States became a brand new country. They were not tied to Great Britain anymore. So after we've read that, it says to choose 2 questions below to answer, either out loud to someone in your home, or on paper. So you can choose to either answer these questions out loud by talking or write the answers on paper. So you're picking 2 of these questions to answer. I'll read them all though. What was the name of the war fought between America and Great Britain? What is a revolution? What do you think is a good name for this war? Oh, do you think this is a good name for this war? Why or why not? Why do you think the war began? Who was in charge of the American soldiers? What were the American soldiers fighting for? What happened after we won the American Revolution? So out of all those questions, pick 2 of them to answer either out loud by talking with a family member or write them down on paper. After you have done that, it says read pages 62 and 63 with someone in your home and talk about what you learned. So let's go to pages 62 and 63. Our first president, George Washington. When America asked him to do something to help, George Washington said yes. He never gave up, even if what he was doing was very hard. He was our country's first leader, so we call him the father of our country. So after the revolution, when we won and we were our own country, we had to pick a president. So the very first president was George Washington. He was the leader of the American Army during the Revolution. So he was a good choice to be the first president because he was already a great leader for the country. George Washington was born in Virginia. He grew up to be a farmer and a soldier. When he was a grown-up, he lived in his house at Mount Vernon. Washington led the army when America went to war against Great Britain. He was so brave. After the war, George Washington became the first president of our country, the brand new United States. His leadership helped our new country grow strong. We honor George Washington in many ways. His face is on our most used bills and coins. Can you name another way we honor our first president? So he is on the quarter and on the $1 bill. Those are some of the ways that we honor George Washington, our country's first president. And it's asking if you can think of any other ways that we honor him today. And a fun fact, so he lived in Mount Vernon, and you can go to Mount Vernon and see his house. They have tried to preserve it the best they can in the way that it was when he was living there. I went there a long, long time ago, I think for a school field trip at some point, and it was very, very interesting. The people there can give you a lot of information about him and the times when he lived there. So it's very cool. If you ever get the chance to do that, I would highly recommend it. Then, so after we've read pages 62 and 63, which were the pages I just read to you, with someone in your home and talk about what you learned. So after we've read those pages, talk about what you learned with someone at home, and then pick 2 questions from below to answer. You can either speak them out loud with someone or write them down on paper, just like the last one. So you're only picking 2 of these questions to answer, but I will go ahead and read them all. What kind of leader was George Washington? How would you describe him? Why do you think people respected him so much? What number president was George Washington? What is George Washington also known as? So we said because he was the very first president of our country, he had a special nickname. Why did he get this nickname? I kind of gave that answer away. Whoops. Where was George Washington born? What jobs did George Washington have as a young adult? What is the name of George Washington's home? And describe a way that we honor George Washington. So add any new information to your KLEW chart. So from what you've learned today, you need to add some new information to your KLEW chart. There's definitely some new information that we learned about George Washington. So add what do I think I know? Anything that you think you know, you can add to this section. What did I learn? Can go here, which would be great. And what is my evidence? At the very beginning, we put what do we think we know about George Washington, and we talked about what we're wondering about him. But the 2 important pieces that you need to fill in now are what did I learn and what is my evidence? So what you learned is what you learned from the content lesson today, and then your evidence is how you learned it. So how do you know what you learned is true? So very good. And then once you've filled in your KLEW chart, the very last part of our content for today says, pretend George Washington is trying to win. I'll start over, sorry. Pretend George Washington is trying to win the best president contest for the best president ever. Design a poster for him that tells people why they should vote for him. Explain your poster to someone you know. So that's a fun activity. And it doesn't have to be on a big poster board. You could do it on a piece of paper. So I'll read it one more time. Pretend George Washington is trying to win the best president contest for the best president ever. Design a poster for him that tells people why they should vote for him. Explain your poster to someone you know. So on your poster, I would include his name, his picture, and reasons why you think people should vote for him. Why is he the best president ever? What about him makes him a good choice for the best president ever? List some things there about why you think people should vote for him, why you think he's the best president ever. So that's his name, his picture, and reasons why you think people should vote for him and why you think he's the best president ever, based on things that we have learned. And then it says to explain your poster to someone you know. So then show your poster to a family member or someone at home and explain what you did and why you think George Washington should win the best president ever. It's a fun kind of activity where you get to create something. And like I said, don't worry if you don't have poster board at home, that's perfectly fine. You can use any piece of paper to make that poster. I believe, yes, that's all our work in the packet for today. You guys have been doing a great job. I'm really looking forward to the end of this week when you guys submit your work so we can look through it and look at all the wonderful things that you've been learning and practicing. We have, like I said, another Zoom tomorrow, Thursday at 1 o'clock. And today I'm going to send out an email with the login information for that meeting. Tomorrow is also the opening ceremony for Field Day. That'll be at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, opening ceremony. And Friday will be the technical field day, although, as said before, do it when works best for your family. While your child is participating, we'd love for you to send us pictures so we can pass them on to possibly get posted on Facebook on the Dutro page. So I'm really looking forward to that. I plan on participating, so I think that'll be super fun. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to let us know. We are here to support you. Students, I love and miss you very much, and I hope that you have a wonderful Wednesday.